welcome to Great British Ghosts. Today we're in Derby, which claims to be the most haunted city in Britain. And I'm here to explore the seedier side of life, the Guildhall tunnels where prisoners were led to the courts to be condemned, and the Derby jail where the condemned waited to die. The Friargate Jail in Derby dates back to the mid-18th century and was used to house a wide range of criminals, from petty thieves to murderers, many of whom were hung on the gallows outside. It has a reputation for being one of the most haunted locations in the Midlands and is run today by the colourful historian and author Richard Felix.
Michaela, hi.
Hi, Richard.
I'll unlock for you.
Gee, that made me jump.
Well,
how are you?
Welcome to Derby Jail. I'm very well, thanks. How are you?
Great place.
Well, it is just a bit. Yeah, it's got rather a good history, to say the least. This was Derbyshire's County Prison from 1756. There was an earlier one, which is gone, and there's a later one as well. But this is more or less as it would have been in the 1700s.
Would have been much bigger then, would it?
Oh, huge. It was 4 stories high, 3 times as long as what you're in now. But this is the atmospheric bit. These are the dungeons underground. The doors are original, the cells, the floor, the walls, all as it would have been.
A place where people would have been very miserable.
Oh, just a bit. The amount of torment, death, pain, anguish that was in here is the reason that it's as haunted as it is.
Should we take a look at some of the cells?
Yeah, this is, well, look at this. I mean, these are original, all of ours, solid oak, 1756. This is from a debtor's cell.
So this is where you'd been thrown if you owed somebody money?
And you wouldn't be allowed out until you'd paid your debts.
Well, how would you pay your debt if you're in jail?
Very difficult. That's why there were so many suicides here, because people got so desperate in the end that they just took their own lives. Fantastic inscription on here, look. This is J. Taylor from Measham for a £10 debt.
Would that have been a lot of money then? I presume
I think it would. 1807. Yeah, it would have been. And whether this guy ever came out, nobody knows. But, I mean, it's full of atmosphere. I mean, it really is. I mean, you look at the walls and the windows and everything else. People spent their last days in here because so many of them would never have come out.
Would it have just been 2 people in here?
Ah, well, we've got 2 beds in here, but in 1824, when this was bursting at the seams before they built the new one, there'd be 6 prisoners in each cell for 23 hours a day with a bucket.
Oh, the stench must have been revolting.
Absolutely unbelievable. And again, you know, you think of the torment of being crammed in here with 5 other people. People died of jail fever, people committed suicide. Horrible. And I personally think that it's still held, the torment and the terror is held in the fabric of the building.
There's surely a ghost in here.
Oh, there's lots of ghosts in here. Oh yeah, absolutely. The number of people that come in here can't stay in it, get smells of like roses and things like that, feel sick, get pushed, scratched, all manner of things. But one of the best ever, actually concerning the door, there was a builder in here, a guy called John, and he was working here on his own, and he kept feeling violently sick, and had to keep going out for fresh air. Blamed the coffee. That was fine. Came back in again, and then this huge door here actually closed on him. And I mean closed completely. Now, the amazing thing about this door is it's solid oak, and he thought it might have been the wind blowing. But trust me, this door will not be blown shut by the wind. It had to be something, for want of a better word, paranormal.
Did he believe that? No.
He wasn't sure. He still said it was probably the wind, but I don't know. But this is the real what's the word I'm looking for? Best part of the place. This is the condemned cell.
Oh, this really is a place that you'd be.
This is a room where no light can enter.
Full of fear, and not knowing whether it was day or night.
No, absolutely. You see, there's no window. You had to pay. If you wanted a candle, you had to pay for it. So you imagine your last night on this planet. You imagine you're having a sleepless night. How insignificant that would be compared to their last night in here. It's pitch black. They know that in the morning they're going to die. They don't know when daytime's coming, and they just sit here with the thoughts, knowing what's going to happen, waiting for those footsteps coming down this corridor. The condemned cell has to be, I would think, the most haunted part of the building, to be honest with you, because if you imagine the emotion that people have felt sitting in that room where no light can enter, knowing that tomorrow morning they're going to be taken out and publicly executed in front of a crowd of people, their family, their friends. They know that they're going to have a slow death, because in those days there was no such thing as a broken neck and a trapdoor. It was literally slow strangulation, taking anything up to a quarter of an hour, kicking, writhing, choking, vomiting, until you were eventually choked to death at the end of a rope. It's extremely haunted in here. Again, you see, we do a lot of events here and night vigils and things, and we do table tilting and seances, and people get pushed, people sense something in here, people have seen a figure. For some reason, it frequently seems to be a dark figure. To be honest with you, as far as I know, we've not had a full-blown apparition that actually is clothed. It's usually this dark figure that appears to people in here. I've got a pretty good idea who it is. I mean, there's more than one. Trust me, there's lots in here. But this guy here, this is George Batty. This is a penny dreadful. This was actually created by the local newspaper. They came in and interviewed you before you were executed, and then printed that with your life story on it and sold it at your public execution for a penny a sheet. It's like a programme for an Iron Maiden concert, and you were the star, and that's why it was known as a penny dreadful. He's still here. He haunts this place. Number of people that have picked him up on seances and things like that. And he was hanged for rape in 1825, the last execution to take place here in this jail.
So if he was guilty, he clearly wasn't a very nice person.
True, but when you read his penny dreadful, he actually went to the parents and apologised. Probably the main ghost here is a guy called Blythe Simpson. He was the jailer. He was the longest serving jailer here at Derby Jail. He's still here. The reason he's still here is because he still thinks he runs the place. Ghosts stay because it was their job, because they love the place, and God, I wouldn't love this place. I bet he's listening to me now and say, but regardless of that, he thinks he runs it. He resents me terribly.
So have you seen him or had an experience?
Yes, I have actually. I've seen a ghost, a full-blown ghost here in this corridor at 3:20 on a Friday afternoon in broad daylight. I was in there on the kitchen, on the phone, when this grey, hazy shape of a person glided down this corridor. I sensed it, I saw it, and I must have seen it for something like 5 seconds gliding down this corridor while I was on the phone. It frightened me to death. I mean, really, because I'm afraid of ghosts, would you believe? I'll tell you what, it has completely altered my attitude. When I talk to people that tell me they've seen a ghost, I say to them, I know exactly what you mean, because I have, but mine was in broad daylight at 3:20 on a Friday afternoon. And
it wasn't a shadow or just you thinking you saw something?
I've been through the lot. I've been through steam from the dishwasher, steam from the kettle, smoke from the fire, a foggy day, car headlights, 3:20 in the afternoon, couldn't possibly be. Even infrasound in this corridor, which causes oscillations and corner of the eye syndrome and nausea and fear. I've had a machine in here to check it. There is no infrasound in here. I've got one explanation for you, and one only. I saw a ghost in here at 3:20 on a Friday afternoon. The amazing thing about this jail, and many jails in the country, it was a franchise. The jailer would actually purchase the franchise from the council and run it as a business. He ran a bar. You had a licence, you could buy wines and spirits. You could lodge with the jailer in his apartments if you could afford it. If you wanted extra straw in your mattress, you had to pay for it. If you wanted a candle in your cell, you had to pay for it. And before you left prison, you had to pay the jailer to pay the blacksmith to knock your chains off. Otherwise, you wouldn't be allowed out. So you were fleeced, literally. Hence the fact that so many people, including debtors, never saw the light of day and either died in here of starvation or committed suicide.
Richard's son, Edward, once had a bizarre experience in the jail's ale room.
Right, I was actually here with a group of jailers from a real working jail over in Stoke-on-Trent, raising money for charity. And for some reason they wanted to investigate this room where we're now stood, which was the visitors' room, or the day room as it's called. And we decided to do something called table tipping, quite similar to doing a séance, but using a table like this one as a go-between between us and the other life. And 6 of us stood in here around this rather heavy table. I chose the heavy table to try and disprove the sort of things that go on. And we all stood lightly with our hands on top of the table here, and we built up the energy, and I then asked if there's anybody here from the spirit world to try and communicate with us by moving the table. And after about 5 minutes, nothing happened. People were getting a bit, annoyed that it wasn't working. Then all of a sudden, we just got a slight movement going from side to side. And I said, if that's the spirit doing it, could you do it more? And it built up the energy so much it started to rock from side to side, just like this table's now doing. And then all of a sudden it rocked so much the table started to actually look like it was walking. And it then started to move towards this poor guy stood where I am now, to the point where it's moving so much so it got to him here, and it started to lift up towards the guy.
Well, so actually, I mean, it's heavy, isn't it?
Actually started, yeah, and it pinned him to the wall, and the poor guy was panicking so much, he let his hands off. And it was still pinned up against him. And I said, has the spirit got a problem with the guy here or whatever? And it just stayed there. And he's got his hands in the air. And next thing you know, he started to shout. His shirt was moving. And we looked down, and his shirt's going in and out on his chest. His hands weren't near it. Nobody else was near him. Really, really panicking at this point. And we all saw clear as day the shirt going in and out. And he was in such a state, we said, we need to stop this. So we closed it down. The table started to drop. And he was in a bit of a state, and as we sort of started to sit down and calm down, he said he felt like something had almost had its hand on his back. And we spun him round, and clear as day, he got a handprint on the back of his shirt. Clear as day, right on the back like that, and it really, really bothered him. But the funny thing was, he was the main guy from the prison where they worked in Stoke-on-Trent, so obviously whoever was coming through that night didn't like what he did.
I would say that there must be between 7 and 12 different ghosts, entities, call them what you will, that actually haunt this building. But when you think of the nature of the place and the torment and the death that went on here, then no wonder it's haunted.
Derby Jail, like so many jails of the time, is a place full of desperation, fear and misery. Just imagine sitting in this cell on the last night of your life, waiting to be led to the gallows outside in the morning, cold, frightened and alone. No wonder the ghosts here are so tormented. This is the Guildhall in Derby city centre. It used to be the courthouse. It's also been a police station and the town hall, and these days it's a theatre. However, I've not come here to look for theatrical ghosts. Instead, I'm heading underground. Beneath Derby's Guildhall is a labyrinth of tunnels and catacombs. Local historian Edward Felix takes the public on tours of them and agreed to show me around.
Where we are at the moment, this is the way down into the rather atmospheric tunnels beneath this Guildhall here in Derby. I think we might need a torch for this bit. But
well, I've got a torch in my bag.
That's great, fantastic. Follow me through, through this way, down into these dark, dingy...
Oh, it's like going down into the cellar.
It's probably worse than that, actually. Once you get down, you'll realise what I mean.
Oh, they're typical sort of Oh, I thought I saw a shadow.
Don't start saying things like that.
Dark and dank and
Yeah.
slightly spooky.
Atmospheric. Just mind your head as you come through. This is the atmospheric bit, I think, to be honest with you. This is where a lot of the ghostly activity happens. This is where we bring the public on the ghost tours, and one of the worst things that I've known actually happened down here was one of my guides many years ago was stood just in front of this gate, and it was back in the day. They were completely secure, locked, nobody could get in or out, and as he was stood with his back to the gate, something grabbed him through the gates and forcefully pulled him towards the gate, and he actually ran upstairs and left the public down here. It frightened him so much, and he disappeared. But that's happened quite a few times to members of the public as well.
There have been at least 4 guild halls here on Derby Marketplace, but the tunnels that we've got here now actually go back to 1828 when they built a guild hall that burnt down, but they retained the tunnels that are here now. And to be quite honest with you, the vast majority of it that we know of, but there is more, by the way, that we can't see, they were mainly used as cellarage for the guild hall, I presume, to store wines, cheeses, whatever. But they do have a bit of a sinister history as well, because Derby's first police office was built literally above where I'm sitting now. First police station in Derby, 1836. And of course, part of these barrel vaulted rooms that are actually down here would most definitely have been used as holding cells for the police station.
And then as we wander down this part, probably coming to my favourite story about a little boy that haunts these tunnels, probably the most notable, most mischievous soul that resides down here. First sighting of him was in 1972. There was a building upstairs that was a clockmaker's, Smith's Clocks, and they demolished the building, and there was so much dust that the workmen couldn't see what they were doing, so they decided to finish early and left one gentleman behind to secure the area. An Irish guy who, as the dust was settling, noticed a hole in the floor, and he actually looked down into the hole, and sat upon the floor of the cellar was a little boy aged about 6, who he described as wearing Victorian clothing. They both vanished, the little boy into thin air, and the Irishman to go and have a stiff whiskey and tell his mates about what had happened, because of course he initially thought it was a real little boy, and they sent somebody back to search the area and they couldn't find him, and that was 40 years ago. And he's still seen to this day. He causes havoc, not only in the Royal Bank of Scotland above on the site of where he saw him, but down here as well. Frequently I've had people telling me they hear a little boy crying, a little boy singing, mischievous, childish behaviour. But not only in the tunnels, actually on the corn market area up there, children have been seen stood playing ball with a little boy and then turning to the mums and dads and asking why the little boy won't throw the ball back.
Really?
Yeah, amazing.
That's an amazing ghost story. Does anyone know who this little boy would have been?
Nobody knows. They look back in the census of the time period around when the original building was hit, and they can't find anything about a little boy, you know, dying here or anything, so they actually don't know who he is.
Still seen now. He's seen all around the tunnels. He's seen in the Royal Bank of Scotland, which is on the site of where the building was demolished. In fact, the manager of the bank actually keeps a diary of the paranormal activity that's still going on now to this day.
You know, the staff have told me that the £5 paperweights get skimmed across the desk, calculators have numbers appearing on the screen, the mop buckets that the cleaners use zoom past them on their own. It's just unbelievable. But a mischievous little soul.
Have you ever seen him?
Haven't seen him. I have to admit, once I did hear what I thought was a child laughing down here. And the strange thing was, I was down that far end and I heard this child's voice, and at the same time, another member of staff was climbing over here and heard the same thing at the same time, but we were opposite ends of the tunnel and we both heard the same thing, and I have to say we both waited and left together. Which
But that could have been him.
It could, which is obviously what we're going to do down this corridor and leading up into the pub.
And we get accounts from people all the time, people that used to work in the bank. One lady who told me that they actually nicknamed him Little Sammy, and her mum had been a cleaner, and I'd actually seen him twice in the basement of the bank. Little boy wearing rags, about 6 years of age. Both times she saw him, he just disappeared through the wall and vanished.
had a lady, and again on a ghost walk, well into her 70s, and she had us captivated for the best part of 10 minutes telling her the stories. She said he was my mate, so I used to talk to him in the basement. I used to see him sliding down the banister, and I used to hear him singing. I mean, she was the most down-to-earth, ordinary lady, an ex-cleaner. Why would she make stories up like that?
And,
Well, these tunnels have gone on further years ago.
Originally, we think there is a lot more to them than what we see now. They've been filled in at various points, but there was an awful lot more to them. Right, we've reached the staircase to get out, and I've got something rather interesting that I want to show you up here. So, hopefully the trapdoor will open.
Oh my goodness, where does it go?
All will be revealed in a minute.
Oh, into civilization.
It is almost civilization, and
And the smell of food.
where better to finish
No way.
than here?
Oh, that's fantastic. Do you fancy a drink?
Sounds like a good idea to me.
What would it be then, a pint?
And a whiskey.
Well, it does seem that Derby has a lot of really good ghost stories, but I think I've had enough of spirits that I can't see for one day. I'm going to enjoy one that I can. Cheers. See you next time. Bye-bye.
Dallas, 1963. JFK and the most infamous assassination in history revisited at 2 after more great British ghosts. To the manor born and deceased in Bolton, next.